Hello and welcome to the Todd Talk Show. I am so excited for you guys to join me on my first episode. Today, I'm going to be having on Sarah Wickliffe, who is an incredibly talented motion designer and producer. She's worked with some top tier clients like HBO, ABC, Comedy Central, DESUS and MERO. There's too many to name. But beyond being incredibly great at her job as a motion designer and a producer, what makes Sarah truly special is she is so excellent at building community and networking. By meeting Sarah, she really introduced me to a lot of amazing people, and those people have really helped take my career to the next level. So that's why I wanted to bring her on, to help you kind of learn from her how she uses certain techniques to grow her network and really help find amazing opportunities. So, without further ado, Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Todd. I am a character animator, motion designer, social content producer. So, when it comes to doing things for social media, not only are you doing the graphics, which is what I was used to doing in television, but you're coming up with the concepts and editing and doing the sound. You're really doing the whole kit and caboodle. Um, that's more of what I'm doing now. And then kind of the soft skills you were referring to, I have built a pretty nice network for myself in the New York motion design community. Um, and that would be how I came to know you, Todd, actually, from doing a lot of uh, just a lot of different jobs. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to share with you everything I've learned in about the 15 years I've been kind of doing my thing.
Which is it's actually kind of hilarious. I just remembered that I actually met you because I got your old job at the Chew, which is
Oh,
kind of
that's
funny.
right. That's right. Yes.
So that's how this all begins. So
Hmm.
what I've kind of teased with is that you're amazing at networking, you're amazing at getting clients, and you've really done a fantastic job like building a community of motion graphics artists in New York. Like I feel like you're really the linchpin that kind of brings our whole group together. So that's really why I wanted to talk to you because I think that skill set you have is really unique. But first, I wanted to kind of just do a general interview and ask, how did you end up in motion graphics? Because I've found almost no one really plans to go into motion graphics. You just sort of end up in motion graphics.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder, I think some people might plan on it now. Like, I think there's more
Yeah.
courses in school, but people kind of our generation, it wasn't necessarily a path that you set out to follow. I studied character animation in college. I initially set out, I went to Pratt Institute and I was thinking I was going to do fine art. And then I thought, even though I love oil painting, that's not practical. I need to find some kind of a trade where I can get a job. Um, and my dad actually suggested character animation. And I thought, okay, that's interesting because it combines storytelling, it combines music, it's, obviously visual art, but then it's motion. Um, and I did always think, filmmaking was pretty cool. So I studied that and then uh, worked in that for a couple of years out of college, but found after the, I think, 2008 recession, the studio I was working at, I was doing a preschool television show called the WONDERPETS. um, that once those shows wrapped, there ceased to be any work at the studio. We were all let go, and I had a really prolonged period of unemployment where just there were little freelance jobs here and there, but it kind of spawned this pivot that I made to motion graphics. And I did that by answering a Craigslist posting for the Onion News Network that was looking for motion graphics interns. And at that time, I had already been a lead animator. I had like a guest director spot on this, preschool show. I had kind of gone up the ranks, and I was really nonplussed about being an intern at that point in my career. Um, But I could rationalize it because I was on unemployment. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I was still on unemployment. And I'm like, okay, well, if I could be, building connections and learning something new, and also it's The Onion, which I love, satire. So I decided to give it a go. And then I just went into that internship thinking, like, I don't care who these other interns are, but if there's going to be a job from this internship, I'm going to get it and I'm going to kill whoever. No, that's not how you build community. That's not really something I want to lead with, I guess. But I was very determined. I was very determined to be the best possible person on this team. Like if we were going to be candidates for the long-term position, and then they actually did end up hiring me after a month, which was great. Even though I had no motion experience, I think the design lead in my department just saw that I had instincts and that I was really willing to learn. And I went out to drink with them a lot, so that probably helped with the networking aspect. But yeah, that's how I ended up in motion. I went with The Onion, and then that group of people, that core group of friends that I made there, they're still some of my favorite people on this earth. And they went out and worked all over the place, and we just recommended each other for jobs all the time. And it was from answering a shady Craigslist post for an internship. So that's how I got it.
That's so impressive. I didn't know it was that story that you had been on unemployment, and then I had known kind of the different things you'd done. Like I had known you had guest directed a cartoon show and worked on that, but I didn't realize the order of that you had gone so high in animation to then restart as an intern in motion graphics. So that's super interesting, and I think that's really cool because it just shows that like you were willing to take a step down to go into a new career, which is really brave. And you didn't just like stick like I'm going to be a character animator, that you were really to pivot, go to the bottom, and then work your way back up. Was that hard to like? Was it like difficult for you? Were you really frustrated when you took the internship, or like did you want to be doing animation, or did you instantly get in emotion? You're like, I rather do this.
I think the reason I chose that path at first was just from my love of The Onion. I always really
Mm.
revered these, satirical comedy shows like The Daily Show. That was the Jon Stewart era. And I loved The Onion. I always thought the articles and the videos were hilarious. And when I was in kids' TV, actually, when I was working as an animator, the one kind of beef I had is that it was all for children's stuff. And I always wanted to do like sophisticated adult humor. And there are definitely opportunities for that, especially in New York. But you know, I wasn't finding any at the time. And then the other aspect that you're saying about like, was it hard to swallow my pride? I had already had 4 internships over the course of my college career, which is how I ended up getting my first gig. I interned at a studio called Curious Pictures for a cartoon called Codename Kids Next Door, and then someone within the building, knew my supervisor at the time, and they were like staffing on a Polly Pocket movie. And the Polly Pocket's a toy. People don't know. It's kind of like a
I'm
Barbie
aware.
movie. Yeah, yes, you know. So I ended up getting on this Polly Pocket movie as like a um, post production assistant or something like that. It was like a PA thing where I was logging the music cues. Um, but anyway, I had already done a lot of interning, and I thought like, really, another one? Even my last internship at Curious Pictures, that was like you got your lunch paid for, and that really felt like rising up in the ranks. And The Onion was like totally unpaid. So it was a real leap of faith that I was going to turn it into something. But I thought it was the content that really motivated. Like if
Mm.
nothing else, I would get the experience of what it was like to work at this place. Um, that I just thought was, it has like a lot of cool factor.
Yeah.
Um, so if nothing else, and I also could rationalize it at that point in my career. Again, you're not supposed to do this, but because I was on unemployment and I was still quote unquote making money that really I paid into and I was entitled to, but I had some kind of income coming in to help pay the rent while I was interning at this place that did lead to like probably the most influential job or one of them of my career. So Yeah, it was a good risk that I took, but it wasn't easy at the time because I didn't. That was after like 8 months of unemployment, and I really did feel pretty low about myself. Like, here I am going back to be an intern, but
Yeah.
it was
Did
it
you
was for the right
did
things.
it Oh, yeah. And did it click right away? Like, have you ever thought about what it'd been like if you stayed on the character animation path, or were you pretty much right away like, okay, motion graphics is a better business? Because I feel like a lot of people start out in character animation, they want to work at Pixar, they want to do cartoons, and then they find their way into motion graphics just because of the commercial demand for motion graphics is so much higher.
Yeah, I think for probably the first year or two, while I had made all these friends at that character animation studio that I worked at, that were all still working in kids TV and doing character animation, and I felt a little bit like a sellout or something, or like I had gone this like boring path. Because I never really sought out to do design. I studied character animation. I had this initial dream, like you said, of being in Pixar, and I had a close call with being a Pixar intern, and that would have been a totally different life choice.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think I kind of grew to love it on the job. It took a couple of years of me working in it and um, coming to terms with that it was going to be a new life path for me, and in some ways a more lucrative one.
Mhm.
Um, because there's definitely work in character animation, but what I found from the jobs that I've heard of in my network and my friends that still work in it is you really have to love it, um, to keep putting in the hours. Not that you don't have that with motion graphics too, um, but especially hand drawn animation. Oh my lord, that is so labor intensive. um, and with motion, at first I thought, oh, like fonts are boring. I never wanted to learn about this. And then I actually, I when I left the Chew and got into late night, when I started working on the nightly show with Larry Wilmore, which was a precursor to the Daily Show, or not. It didn't start before it. It literally was a time slot before it for a brief period of time. Um, I kind of realized, oh, you need to embrace this thing that you're doing because you've got this great opportunity to reach a huge audience, and you're working in comedy. Like, this is what you've always wanted to do. Now it's on television, it's not on the web anymore. And like, nerd out because pretty much anything can be interesting if you just decide that you're interested in it. I just realized you just have to like decide, oh my God, this is fascinating, and then just dive into it. And then, yeah, your perspective is totally changed. So, um, and it helped me be a lot better at it, actually, just having that mindset shift.
That is so interesting because I literally went through almost the exact same thing when I moved out to Silicon Valley because of my wife's job. Like originally, I was like, "Oh, I'm a TV person. I want to work in TV. I want to do entertainment." And then when my wife got the job out here, I was like, "Oh my God, I have to figure out how I'm going to make a living in the Bay Area." And there's no television shows or ad agencies or anything with normal motion graphics. And it was just the mindset of switching, like, okay, I'm going to find user interface design fascinating that got me. So it's super fascinating because I went through almost the exact same thing of just you can often choose to become interested in self, and as you learn more about it, you tend to like it more as you get better at it. That's super interesting. I think that's a really good point. Like just for people to take away that you can decide, even if it's not exactly what you want to do, that you can find it interesting and make it into something you love. That's a really good point.
Yeah, mindset is everything. And learning to love the one you're with is the next best, use of your energy if you're not in a position to be able to go for the thing that you really love or really passionate about. If there's some kind of obstacle, or if you've been doing it for a while and it's not working, you can love the one you're with and get really awesome at it and see where that takes you, because it might take you to a really wonderful place. You don't know until you try it.
That is great advice. So I have a question because I've kind of built you up as the networking queen. Like, did you just sort of start when you were like going to the Onion and going to these places? Was it in your mind like I'm building my network, or when you started the Slack channel and all these different things, or is it something you just do naturally? That's one thing I'm like. Do you have like a plan you go out with, or is it just sort of your personality and you're naturally just a connector of people?
Um, Definitely not something I sought out to do. Um, I will say now that I'm really reflecting on like, oh, how did I get to this place? Even when I was interning in college and I was like a little nobody making photocopies in animation studios, whenever I would leave after my term there, I would always kind of like see if I could get the contact information of the couple of key people that were interacting with me the most at the time, um, and just reach out to them periodically. If it made sense, I never wanted to be annoying or anything, but I did make it a point to stay in touch because I knew intuitively, even as a college kid, that the relationships that you're forming, that's like why you do it, because these people work in the industry and you will see them around. And I did see plenty of people that I knew as an intern when I finally started doing animation gigs. Um, but when it came to how I built my network, um, in the real professional world, initially it just came from going out to happy hour a lot with
Mm.
people and people wanting to all blow off steam and have camaraderie and being in your 20s and being able to stay out till all hours. You really get, you're working long hours with people, and then, you want to blow off that steam at the end of the week. And you really form a close bond that way, working with people like that. And, you know, the thing is, I did that at that job. That studio closed. Then there was the Onion, and then they moved their offices to Chicago, and so that really
Oh.
tight knit group of friends that I made there. Also, we all dispersed, and really, I formed my network uh, through just a series of bad luck. I don't know if you would call it bad luck at this point because maybe it's just what the gig economy is, but um, I was never at a job for longer than 2 years for pretty much my whole 15-year career. I just bounced around a lot because of studios closing or a budget running out, any number of reasons why you would work with a bunch of people, get really close, hang out with them after work, put in long hours together, really bond, and then everyone just be like totally let go out of nowhere. Um, Whenever those people that I would work with, they all land in their own little places. It's like the diaspora of whatever that studio was, and they get to where they're going, and they meet people there, and it's like, oh, they'll remember you if you were cool and you did your work and um, you were fun to be around. Yeah, that's how you kind of that's how I ended up building my network and getting referrals and just trying to stay in touch with people. I tried to like just collect a couple of people that I really loved from every particular position, and that's how I ended up kind of with this. It's a very small Slack that I have. Um, but when I made the choice to start working from home in 2018, I knew that I probably wouldn't be going out with people as much and that I would be alone in my office at home, still wanting and needing community. And also, if I was to take on other projects, I would want a network of friends that, could maybe pick up overflow or that could work on the project with me. So these are all just people that were like best persons that I met at various jobs that I loved and wanted to keep in touch with, and uh, that's how my little network was formed, I guess.
Well, and it's amazing how that small for it. So no one, you're probably not gonna get to join if you're a random person on this, but for the few people on it, it's been really amazing. Like I've gotten so many jobs off that. I've given people jobs. It's really been like an amazing tool that I never would have thought to start out myself, but like it's been great being a part of. And I'm really grateful that you started it because I've met so many great people from that Slack. It's been awesome.
I'm definitely open to expansion. So,
Oh, okay.
if you know anybody cool.
If you know
No, we just
anybody
had
cool.
yeah, cool and talented. And it's still exclusive, I swear.
Exactly.
But my friend Teddy just invited one of
Hmm.
his friends, Ashley, um, onto the Slack, and she just moved to New York, and she's working like 4 jobs right now. It's
Yeah.
like she's so hardworking, it seems.
Yeah.
But she's got a ton of overflow too, and so immediately, just from being open to meeting this person, and like we going back to the theme, we went out for drinks not long ago, like 2 weeks ago. I got to meet her in person. She's very cool. Um, but yeah, having a new motion graphics friend is wonderful in the camaraderie and like ability to like help troubleshoot, maybe. And also, hey, there's more work out there if she needs a hand or can't take something. It's like that, give and take, good juju kind of thing.
Oh, totally. Well, even just bringing up Teddy, because when I moved out to San Francisco Bay Area, I didn't know a single person, but you introducing me to Teddy on there was the hugest thing because the way the scene in the Bay Area versus New York works is so different. Because in New York, it's all personal connections and you just like call a friend and they try and get you on a show. Where out here, everything is done through recruiters. Where Teddy introducing me recruiters, that was the hack that helped me get a job out here
I'm so
where
glad.
without knowing Teddy and him telling me that because I was in your Slack, it would have been so much harder for me because I knew absolutely zero people out here. So like it's interesting how like it's a small group of people, but within that group of like 10 people, it kind of connects you almost anywhere there's motion happening in the world. Okay, so you were talking about when you decided to work from home, and this is something I really admire you for, is that you just decided, and this is pre-COVID, that you were only going to work from home, which to me, I was like, I can't imagine being willing to say no to anything because I have like a famine mindset where like every job will be the last and I have to take it and jump on it right now and whatever they want, I'll do. So I was so impressed that you just decided like no, I'm not coming into the office. I'm going to work from home, and they know I'm good, and they're going to do that. So, can you kind of tell me about how you decided to do that, and how you kind of got to the confidence level where you knew you'd be able to get enough work that you could turn down things to just say, "I'm going to work from home."
Yeah, I I got the confidence. Well, first, let me talk about why. My why for working from home, just because, to let your listeners know that it's not because I needed to wear pajamas all day or something like that. Uh, but, I was at a place with my husband where we were talking about having a family. And he works in television, which is where we met. And the hours are very, very long. And we live in a suburb outside of New York City where the commute is at least an hour, hour and a half one way. So long hours plus like 2 to 3 hours in the car. You know, one of us needed to have a flexible lifestyle in order to be able to have a family. That was just like what it was. And at that point, Steve is still kind of like, ironically, now he is working from home due to the pandemic. But at the time, it seemed like that would never, ever in a million years happen. And he does still work longer hours than me. But that was my why. I just kind of decided. Oh, I mean, also because I had been doing super long TV hours for long enough and
Yeah.
just feeling like crap physically from it and just really burnt out that I decided I needed to do the thing that felt right for my health and my well-being. So I got the confidence to make that choice honestly from having been laid off so many times and having landed on my feet every single time, um, that it just gave me maybe an irrational, but an amount of faith in myself and in the community that I lived in, and also in the current economy. I might not have made that choice if work was feeling really scarce.
Hmm.
But somehow whenever a studio would implode or move or something like that, there might be a little bit of a dry spell, but I would always get an email or two of, hey, such and such show's staffing up. And especially when I initially made that choice, I was really in the circulation of TV shows that, um, you know, there's a library of people who are good and reliable, and they'll reach out to you. Now, those aren't the kind of jobs that you could, or at the time, those weren't really the kind of jobs you could do from home. Um, and so it was a bit of a gamble when I just decided to do it. But at the same time, I knew that motion graphics in particular is something that you really can't do from home, and that a lot of people already do,
Yeah.
um, especially now. um, yeah, especially now. It just seems silly to me to spend all this time commuting to sit at a computer terminal and not talk to a lot of people all day and generate a product and go home when I could have a really banging workstation at my house and not waste that time and have time to sleep more or work out or be with my son or whatever I want to do. Um, so the confidence came from having gone through a lot of oh shit moments. You can bleep that out. I don't know if you'll need to. In my career, and just always finding that the universe kind of provided, like something just always panned out, and I just had faith that if I put it out there, I think when I first made that choice, I made a giant contact list of everyone that I'd ever really worked with at all of my jobs ever. Um, and just sent out a blast to anyone that had any kind of influence or who was an artist who would know someone who did, and just said Sarah Wickliffe available for freelance. And I announced my intentions, that I'll be working remotely, starting my own company, uh, still do the same great quality work. We'll be doing it from my home. If you have any motion graphics needs, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you. And yeah, I didn't get a ton of uh, responses, but definitely enough where people were either very supportive and said that they would keep me in mind, or the 1 to 2 people that said, "Hey, actually, you know what? I do have something for you," and that just kind of like fed on itself. And then I ended up getting the main client that I'm with right now, who has just been so good to me. I haven't really felt like I needed to look around, but when I first made that choice, it was from just kind of going for it and then putting it out there in the universe in a very loud way, and asking and seeing if I would receive. And I was very lucky, and I did. So the end.
And I think that's such a great takeaway is that you were willing to ask for it. Because when I first started freelancing, I was so afraid to ask, like, hey, do you have work or anything like, because I thought I'd be bothering people. But it really is like if you have to put it out there and do the ask to get people interested, and really like just having the courage to shoot out that email. Like, if you wouldn't have done that, no one would have known. But since you did that and you put that into the universe, it really casted the net so that you are on the top of people's minds when they're thinking about, I need some freelance motion graphics. So I think that's a
I had
great strategy.
I had just read this book, The Freelance Manifesto, which I
Mm,
highly, highly recommend for anyone looking to do freelance motion graphics if you haven't heard about it yet. Um, and I totally know what you mean about kind of having that fear of showing people that you're available because you're looking for work. That must mean times are tough. But the way the book framed it, and it was another mindset shift with me, um, that people who are looking to hire and have work that needs doing, they're looking for good people. And if you are a good person and you're available, you're delivering a gift to their inbox by telling them that you're available. So it's not like, oh, woe is me, I'm not working right now. It's, hey, I'm available, and I might be able to help you out. So what can we do? Like, it's thinking of it positively, like you have something to give, rather than kind of feeling sorry for yourself.
No, I think that is like a key takeaway for every freelancer out there, that you have to be willing to put it out there. You have to be willing to put it out there, because I was the same way. I was so like, oh, they'll think I'm bad. No one wants me. That's why I'm like begging for work. But it's really not that. I think exactly what you said. Like, to a producer that their motion graphics just quit, or they're awful, you just made their day by letting
Yeah,
them know you're available.
totally. Good people are hard to find. So, yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's all things
One thing
change.
Oh, exactly. Everything changed. And speaking of change, what I want to talk to you about next was how you approached having a child and a family and having a motion graphics career, specifically television, because we've both worked in television, and it is a demanding schedule and famously not flexible whatsoever. So I would kind of love to hear about how you approached having a child and keeping your motion graphics career just firing on all cylinders.
Well, first, I feel like I should acknowledge that TV, and the entire workforce really is just so changed by the pandemic,
Yeah.
and has kind of been forced into sort of a flexibility that it never otherwise would have been without this massive world altering event. Um, so I I thought about TV jobs very differently, um, when I first went remote than I do now. They are still very demanding. And I'm not currently working in television. I'm working in a TV adjacent uh, world right now, which is doing social media content for AMC networks. So I'm doing network stuff rather than for a specific show with like a call time and taping schedule and all that kind of stuff. That's more what I was used to. Um, but making the choice, and or when we talk about making the choice, how I approached having a family, I think once I got to a place where I felt like I could rely on the income I had with remote work, um, you know, Steve and I were trying for the baby, and once I got pregnant, I think I was working both with AMC, and then I was doing 1 or 2 days a week at a show called DESUS and MERO, where I was still on site for that part time. And I had started this company, where basically it allowed me to take on slightly larger jobs than I could handle myself, and then I would pay colleagues of mine that were my favorite people that I mentioned from the industry. I would just say, hey, do you have bandwidth for some extra stuff? And so I was working at DESUS and MERO while I was simultaneously supervising a buddy of mine doing extra work for AMC. I was like basically double booked, but I was
Mhm.
finding a way to make it work. Um, and as luck would have it, AMC wanted to hire me, wanted to just have me all the time, um, at around, like an early part of my pregnancy. And it felt simple to um, just kind of reduce the amount of like extra stuff going on preparing for this big change. So I went solo with them for a while. I think I did take on one other big gig for Yahoo during my pregnancy. Um, and because I had this company, I hired the current guy that was working with me and then another friend of mine to kind of like hold my place with the AMC booking while I was on maternity leave, which in a non-freelance lifestyle at like a normal company, or not, I don't want to say normal, at a company with more robust benefits where you're an employee, I would have had an actual maternity leave. I was it.
Speaking of children,
Yes, But given the freelance, small business owner kind of lifestyle that I set up for myself, I sort of just held a foot in the door with this client, having the guys working under me still continue to pay them throughout my leave. And then I came back after, I think, 3 months. And yeah, sorted out getting childcare in the home. And I've been working primarily for them ever since, just because we've built a really great working relationship that works really well for both of us. I think I've learned a lot working for them, and they find a lot of value in what I do. We recently, um, you know, uh, recently went through a renegotiation, and I can just tell that they really value what I do. And even though I'm still only working 4 days a week, I think when I came back from maternity leave, I started with 3 day weeks. Then I added a fourth day, and I really like my 4 day week. Like,
Yeah.
I know they would prefer to have me on for five, but I kind of I take on the responsibility and just always am very honest with my boss, who I'm so happy she uh, also has a family and understands.
Mm.
But I say, I will always make sure that you have what you need. Um, if that requires putting in some extra time Monday through Thursday, I can do that. I will work twice as hard during the
Yeah.
hours that I'm at my desk. And because of all the time that I spent in television, I'm very efficient. Um, and especially being a parent, when you have a chunk of free time, you get your stuff done. You are not, because you know that time is so precious, you are not screwing around. Um, and I just kind of know that when I get to my desk, there is a certain amount of things that I want to achieve to know that you know, uh, delivered for that day. I make sure that I do that, and then go downstairs and have dinner at 5:30 with a toddler and just immediately go into chaos. So yeah, that's what it's been like. Is I just hop back in with a team that really loves me, and I value the work I do with them, and I really work my ass off during the time that I'm at my desk, and then uh, I get my Fridays off, which is
That's
wonderful.
beautiful.
So that's that's how it's been going. And my son is almost two. He'll be two Thanksgiving weekend. So it's been a wild ride.
One thing about maternity leave, were you afraid to take off? Like, were you scared? Like, because I went back to work 2 days after my son was born because, like, I was with freelance. I was a freelancer at the time. I was so scared to take any time off that I'd just be replaced. Or were you pretty confident they weren't going to replace you? Or did you worry about that at all, about taking a break?
Well, I think because I had a solid relationship with this
Mm,
client before, um, before announcing I was pregnant, and also locking in my replacements, there was a certain security I had in knowing that the people that were replacing me on my leave were actually being paid through my company. Like
mm,
I was still present even though I wasn't um, doing the work. So I think it feels lousy because God, maternity leave is like so important, and it's so
it
messed up
really
that
is.
we don't have a
Yeah.
policy. Like Jesus.
Yeah. No, I
um,
know.
but
Very aware.
yes, yes. But I just that was just how I went about doing it. That's how I made it work. Like everything, parenting and freelance both have the same thing in common, where you just make it work one day at a time. It's
Yeah.
not predictable.
Yeah. No, that's super true. And that is really smart that you brought up, like, especially as you're building these bigger clients, putting it through your own company. So it begins more than we're just hiring you, the person, that they see you as like, oh, you're like a service provider and you give us motion graphics, regardless of you doing it. But they know if they hire your company, they will get their motion graphics needs met. So I think that was really smart that you created the company and then hired out the people underneath you. So they weren't just like, we have to have her, that this company figures out everything for us. I think that was a really good move.
Yeah, yeah, and that was my original vision for when I started the company. It's called Silver Lining Creative, um, and I wanted to be able to take on work and just ensure that the client would get it done and be happy with it. Whether I did it myself or I hired a friend to do it, I would do, be in charge of the quality assurance, the communication with the client, producing basically.
Yeah.
Um, I aspired to be able to do um, more managerial type things because I kind of know how it all works now. I don't feel like I need to be at my desk, making the donuts. Uh, but I do find a lot of satisfaction in watching projects come together, and seeing people happy with the result and getting what they need and making things work. Like problem solving is so huge, and I do that every day with the work I do for social content. There's so much of it where like now it's awesome. Actually, I get sent screeners for brand new shows that are coming up and just kind of ask like, hey, what would be a good marketing strategy? What are some assets that you could come up with to help promote the show? And that is so far and away from what I would have ever been doing as a character animator. I get to use my brain in a totally different way. So it's problem solving. It's like finding that the show sent a bunch of behind the scenes footage and like, hey, make something.
Yeah. So the next thing I'd really love to talk about is like over the last 15 years, how your goals have changed, about like where did you originally see yourself wanting to be and where you are now and where you're trying to be, and kind of how, as your career has progressed, how your goals have changed.
So I always knew my dream was to have a company, was to, be my own boss. Um, and now technically I do have that. I am uh, more or less staff at the gig I currently hold, but that's completely by choice because um, it's just a working relationship that's gone really well, and um, you know I don't see any need to change it currently. Um, so I've met that goal, and I can kind of sit with that and feel good about it for a while. At the same time, I think when I first started my company, um, I aspired to have a wider range of clients, kind of parked right now, which uh, isn't something that I really feel ashamed or regretful about in the current situation, because other parts of my life are just taking priority, beyond uh, expanding my business life. I did put a lot of time and energy um, over the last 15 years in my career, in learning software, in meeting people, um, learning different workflows. And I really work my ass off at my job, when I'm, at my desk in the zone. Uh, but now, right now, especially while my son is small, I gotta be honest. When I'm in my off time, I'm thinking more about why didn't he eat dinner? um, or thinking about what we could do together this weekend, or I am a bit of a fitness buff. A lot of I spend at least 4 to 5 hours a week at the gym. not a huge portion of the week, but it's enough where, several of my downtime nights, I'm exercising and not sitting at my desk, doing work. And I really value that. It's kind of become like my church. Just helps me decompress, use my body in a different way that isn't, staring at a screen and, communicating with people and outputting product or managing the chaos of a toddler. I just get to do something where I tune out. I know it betters my body. It makes me stronger. And it's really good for me. So I'm not really willing to give that up. I really like the healthy lifestyle that I'm kind of living with that. And yeah, I think my goal currently is to just do good work and be a good mom and be happy. And I'm killing it on that note. So, check back in another couple of years. We'll see if I'm sure goals will change again. But I always say it's like a long life. It's a long life. You have to have things to do. So I'll find a way to fill it if it's not being filled.
No, I think that's a great answer. And for a lot of people, especially when you're young, it seems so crazy to think that you can have goals outside of your career. And I don't think it's till you get older you realize there's a lot more to life than your motion graphics career.
Yeah, it's important. I really admire like so many artists and, gosh, there are some amazing people out there and super motivated, hardworking badasses. Um, and that's what they're doing right now. So good for them. I will watch them. I will admire them. I will learn from them. I will also have dinner with my toddler at 5:30 and work out and watch food TV at night. So that's where I'm at. I guess it sounds like I'm lazy, but actually I'm really tired
No,
all the time.
you are not lazy. You are a lot of things. Lazy is not one of them. As you
Oh,
like
thank you.
deadlift 10 million pounds while you're like running this company and having a kid and doing 4,000 other things.
Oh, I appreciate that, Todd. Thank you for the reminder.
Of course. So one thing I'd like to ask, like, what is the career highlight for you, and what is a career low light for you? Like the best moment, and then also like a war story. Like, what was one of the hardest things within your motion graphics career you had to go through?
Those are such meaty questions. Low light, that could either be a disappointment from an external force, or it could be something where you were disappointed in yourself.
Oh, let's hear
I'll try.
both. I'm interested in both. These are sound so
Yeah,
juicy.
yeah. I think a low light for me, an external disappointment, is when I was working on the nightly show, and that was canceled just because I had been on so many other canceled shows. And that particular show just felt like this golden era in my TV career where I was in an office with these, you know, four other artists who I truly, truly loved, just personally and on a creative level. And, the show wasn't always the best, but I I thought the content we were doing was important at the time, and it felt like it could have sticking power. And because I was working on late night comedy, and it was finally on the Comedy Central right before the Daily Show, it felt like I like really arrived. Oh, that one stung. Also, because it was really abrupt. Like we found out on Monday that the show was canceled, and our last day was on Friday, and that was it. No more job. The end. So that was a bummer. And then the one where I was disappointed in myself. This is a key piece of advice for any digital artist out there. Early on in my career, when I was at the kids TV studio. I think I was like, 24 or something. Um, you were supposed to always back up your media drive at the end of every night. And I had not done that for 2 weeks. And then I came in after one of those really important bonding sessions with my coworkers where I was doing valuable networking work, and I was not feeling too great the next day. And I went to render something out, and it said it didn't have enough space to render. And I was like, oh crap, I gotta clear some space. And accidentally dumped my entire media drive in the trash.
Oh no.
And hit delete. And I not only lost 2 weeks worth of shots for this cartoon show I was working on, I was a lead animator for my team. And so they were like difficult shots. And I was in a position of leadership. So it looked really bad. And it was only because I had a very, very good friend there who helped me with data recovery. Totally saved my ass. That that it wasn't like a complete disaster, but that was where I got religion about backing up your data. And my dad, who also is a digital artist, he's an audio engineer, told me after that, Sarah, if the file isn't in two places, it doesn't really exist.
That's the truth. That is, oh my God, that had me like, I felt sick to my stomach just you telling me that story because it's like my biggest fear. Well, and I'm so happy.
It was so bad because.
Oh my God. Like,
yeah, I after that happened, I went to open up one of my files and I was like, oh, where is it? Where? Oh my God, what did I do? Oh, it was so terrible. And then, okay, wait, so you wanted a career highlight too. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of like the best moment. One of the best moments, I don't know if it's the best one, but when the nightly show was canceled, I had heard that Jon Stewart was staffing up for a new project, which, spoiler alert, did not happen. He does have a new show out now. But it was this whole experimental thing. I had been reading about it as an animated thing. I was so excited about it, very intrigued. And so, because he was an EP on the nightly show, he came to the very last show taping to just say some words to the crew. And I ballsily, is that a word? Walked up to him and introduced myself as a motion graphics artist and said, hey, I heard you're starting an animated show. I do animation. I'd love to, get in touch with whoever on your team is staffing up for that because I'm very interested. And obviously I'm available now. And he told me who to get in touch with. Not only did I reach out to him, I think I also looked into whoever. I knew two other people from my job were rolling onto that show. And even though I didn't know them very well, I sought them out at drinks that night and just kind of stated my intentions, and not my intentions, that I was interested, just kind of trying to sniff it out. And through hitting these three people, ended up parlaying my way onto that project, which was another thing that didn't quite pan out. But the highlight was getting up the gumption to walk up to Jon Stewart and shake his hand and introduce myself. I was very proud of myself that in the moment. It felt like a once in a lifetime kind of thing. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, and that's, you see, again, you got it because you were willing to ask. There's a takeaway I just see again and again is that you are willing to put yourself out there and ask literally one of the most famous people in America for the job, which I think is so ballsy and awesome. And it's so cool that even though the show didn't pan out, the job panned out with Jon Stewart, and that's awesome. And that you were willing to go and ask those people hey, you should hire me. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
And also and especially thank you so much for being so vulnerable on your low light, because from the outside, like, it looks like you've just done so well. You have this meteoric rise, and it's like you're just a kick-ass motion graphics artist. And it's so great to see that, like, even people that seem so successful and are doing so well, that they also, like, I had no idea that you had gotten fired like multiple times, not fired, or been laid off from the show being canceled like multiple times, and like had gone through these things. Because when everyone looks out on the outside, they think, oh, it's just so easy for them, they do it. You only think it's yourself that ever has a hard time with anything. So thank you for bringing
Oh,
that up.
yeah, I felt snake bit after a while. I was like, what is it about me? Like, is it that I roll onto a project and it's canceled? And then I don't know. It's just the business.
Yeah, that's his TV, because it was exactly, until my current job, it was the exact same thing. It was year and a half, year and a half, year and a half, year and a half. It was like because it was either like, the show is either, well, with the Chew, what happened with Mario Batali has happened, and I was like, I need to get off this sinking ship.
Hmm.
Where it's either the show is gonna get canceled,
Yeah.
or it's like there's some external thing, or like it's very rare for shows to last. And in TV, it's like I always felt like you're jumping from one sinking boat onto the next sinking boat, or like hoping that you finally get on a boat that floats. And I'm so happy you seem to have found a boat that floats.
Yeah. I've got my boat. It's not in TV anymore, but there like every now and then there's like the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Like that's like solid.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but you know, it at the same time the reason I named my company what I named it, Silver Lining Creative, is
Yeah.
because I feel that my career was really molded by having a lot of unfortunate circumstances happen.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Having all of these disappointments though allowed me to meet all these people,
Yeah.
and you just got to look for the silver lining in every situation. It's really all you
Yeah.
can do.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me when you hear it from the other person's perspective, where it's like from the outside, I'd only seen you like, you're on this show, you're on this show, you're on this show, and I'm not thinking about how you got onto all these different shows, when really what looked like a series of like tough breaks, where each tough break actually got you onto a better and better show. So even though it was hard, like every single one took you to a better place, and it was your attitude and being willing to ask that really got you there. So it's so cool to just hear that, and to see like, oh, like even in a tough break, like you can really change that into like an amazing opportunity. Like sort of like your show getting canceled changes you to like getting on a show of Jon Stewart, which is incredible.
Yeah, yeah. Having a can-do attitude, and don't get caught up in feeling hard done by or anything like that. Just show up and trust your gut, work work quickly, and make sure it's quality, and it's gonna work out for you.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, what I would just love for you to give, like, if someone's they want to be a motion graphics artist, they want to be a designer, they want to do something similar to what you do, what would be the advice you would give them?
um, hmm, what would be the best advice? I think just going for things, like saying yes as often as possible. There's definitely a time and a place to say no. Um, and I wouldn't say yes out of a scarcity mindset. Um,
Mm,
don't do that, because like if you're saying it because you're really afraid you're never going to get other work, you know that's not a great position to put yourself in. But if you're scared to do something, like one of the ways that I always knew I should do something, when I was facing a job choice, like, should I take this? If I felt really scared to my core about it, it probably meant that I should take it. Um,
mm,
so, but I'm trying to articulate what I mean about going for it. I think when I think of where I was as a little baby designer with no formal training, a character animator who, um, you know, didn't really give a crap about fonts or want to know about them. I was just there because I knew After Effects. Um, I second guessed my instincts a lot. I didn't know. I would, think, oh, is this too derivative? Is this good? Am I just copying something? Honestly, you already have the visual language just by watching and observing media. The more that you can watch ads, watch TV, um, just watch any kind of moving or still media with a critical eye and start to notice, hey, the colors green and orange are used all the time for food branding. So if you get a gig that's like, for a grocery store or something, like you could use those colors, it would probably work. It doesn't matter that it's derivative. It's part of our shared visual language. It's like things that are already accepted in work. Like
Yeah.
copying things, it's it's not a bad thing. If that's what your gut is to do it, it's going to be still a little bit original because it's your version of it. Your client's going to change it anyway. So go with your gut, copy a little bit, base it on what you know, base it on what already works, um, and start with that as a first offering for any kind of like new project that you might have, because if you're copying something that already works, it's probably like 70% there already. So it's not super inspiring advice, but again, I feel like I used to get really hung up on trying to make sure that it was perfect, and I would really trip myself up and pause on designing things. But working in daily TV where you have to be really fast, you
Yeah.
don't have that kind of time to second guess yourself. And just making more and more stuff allowed me to build that language, of just go-to tropes that I use, so much faster. And people really, really love it if you just go and you do it
Yeah.
and you get them something fast.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't want to deliver something that looks crappy, obviously. But even if you do, even if it's a little crappy, it's better to give the client something to respond to, because half the
Mhm.
time they don't even know what they want. And once they see what you're offering, they'll be able to say, oh, you know what, it needs more XYZ, and then you can go back and have something to go with and know how to fix it. So just make the thing and it'll work itself out. that's, that's my advice.
Just do it, basically. Just do it and do
Just
it
do it.
quick and get it done. Well, I think that's really great advice. I agree with the exact same thing. A lot of times clients aren't even necessarily looking for something good. They're just looking for what they want, which you may not think is good, but they just want, and I
Yeah.
agree, they just want it now. What they
Yeah.
really like is getting it quick versus having something that you think is perfect late. They're going to be upset with, because what you think is perfect, they may absolutely hate, and now you just wasted all your time. So that is great advice, Sarah, and I just want to thank you so much for giving me an hour from your very busy schedule to come on and talk and drop so much knowledge that aspiring motion graphic artists can take with them to hopefully get themselves to the kind of career you're having. And is there anything you want to plug? Social media, your business, anything you want to plug?
Uh, stay tuned to the AMC TV social media feed. I'm cutting videos for new shows all the time. I just helped come up with the marketing strategy for a new show called Kin, which is about an Irish mob family. It's actually a really good show. And I've been doing a lot of editing for them. So, highly recommend that show. My website is silverliningcreative.com. I'm sure you'll put a link to it in your show notes. I work with a couple of other really talented artists from the aforementioned Slack. They're on there too. And yeah, it was just great being on, getting to reflect and catch up with you a little bit, Todd. Thank you
Oh,
for
great talking
having
with
me on.
you.
This was a real pleasure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been the first episode of the Todd Talk Show, and hopefully, we'll be bringing you a lot more interviews with awesome motion graphics artists and all sorts of interesting people.